This video contains copyrighted material on the educational fair use exemption to the U.S. copyright law. This is Bandura's alternative study. Let's get started.
Background. Bandura's original study looked at the influence of others on children in a way that would arouse aggression. For our alternate method, we have decided to investigate other influences. Our method involves the influence of video games, both violent and nonviolent, and their effects on the aggressive behavior of children.
Aim and hypotheses. The aim of our alternative method is to test the impact of violent video games on children during their childhood and into their teenage years. Hypotheses. Exposure to violent video games from the age of 5 until 10 will increase violent behaviors. Violence will be seen in multiple ways. Verbal violence will increase during gameplay, and physical violence will increase while not playing video games. This is probably because, during the game, you're going to get more mad and yelling at people online, whereas when you're done with the game, you're going to be more mad outside, so you're going to be more physical.
The methodology for our study will be a longitudinal case study. It will take place over 5 years when the children are from 5 to 10 years old. Now, here's the tricky thing. The participants will be self-selected through a website recruitment, and we'll get to that in a minute. But
Kyle.
Data collection will be done through observations, reports, and questionnaires.
Independent and dependent variables. The independent variable will be the type of video game the child will be playing, either Call of Duty or similar fighting game, or a racing game like Mario Kart. The dependent variable will be the child's reaction to the game, if the child imitates the game in any way, verbal or physically, or whether the game type influences their interests as they get older. Example, a passion for guns or cars.
Alright, participants and samples. This study will follow 4 boys and 2 girls starting when they are 5 and ending when they are 10. They will be split up into 2 groups of 2 boys and a girl and 2 boys and another girl. They will have their older siblings. One group will have a male older sibling, and the other group will have a female older sibling, and that will vary based on their type of video game too. They will be recruited through GameFly. The older sibling will receive an email asking for participation in an experiment, and they will show it to their parents, and their parents will accept and decide what to do. The use of the different gender of the older sibling is a lot like how they did it for the model in the study.
okay, so once the appropriate sample is selected, the children, the 5-year-olds, will be taking a test at the beginning of the study, and this test will be a standardized test that will be used throughout the entire study to check their aggression levels. Any results that come up from this test will be saved for the end and will be recorded. Now, this study will have deception involved in it. The children will be misinformed on the true intent of the study and the true aim of it. However, the participants and the older child, the older sibling, will be given $100 annually to pay for the video game of their choice. What depends on the group though. For the violent group, they'll have to pick a violent game, and the non-violent will take a non-violent game. The participants will have to play for either 7 hours a week, so 2 hours in one day and 5 throughout the rest of the week, or just 1 hour a day each.
From time to time, the experimenter is going to plan to meet up with the participants. They're going to typically meet up in a game store to see what games the participants are drawn to. This will help see if the violent video games had any effect on how they're thinking, or if the non-violent games also had an effect on how they're thinking. When the participant meets with the experimenter anywhere from 6 months to a year at a time, they're going to take the same aggression test that they took in the beginning of the study just to see if anything's increased or decreased. As time goes on, this process is going to continue to track the participants' progress.
Just like Bandura, the data type is going to be a lot more qualitative data than there will be quantitative data, and this is mainly a result of you doing the interviews and the questionnaires.
Alright, very similar to the Bandura study, the children who are playing the violent games will tend to go more towards violent behaviors than the kids who are playing the non-violent games like Mario Kart.
It can be concluded that exposure to violence in children can lead to long-term and immediate effects.
Strengths. Rich qualitative data is one. The standardized test administered is a high control. It is highly standardized sample because they're normal people playing the game. The children are observed over a long period of time, which adds a lot of qualitative data. Both the participants and the older sibling will get a $100 gift card to split by the end of the experiment, and the deception involved in this study would provide more ecological validity.
Now, weaknesses. The sample size was a very small sample, which leads to it being very ungeneralizable. And as well as the sex ratio, there were 4 males and 2 females, not making it quite even, but it's fairly close. There's also the exposure to the violent video games at a very young age for the children, and overall just the use of children watching violent stuff. Another main weakness would be deception in this, and that's just one of the big ethical concerns of any study like this. And also it may become a distraction in everyday life and possibly cause distress.
In regards to ecological validity, there is a good amount of ecological validity in this study. A child being exposed to technology and video games is pretty common and occurs in everyday household. It's been recorded in other studies that the average child spends 16 to 18 hours a day on the video games. So asking the child to spend 7 hours a week is not that bad. Also, the deception on the participants could slightly raise the validity.
Positive ethics were the parental consent given, the reward given, and it promoted family time between the siblings. Negative ethics were that one group was exposed to rated M games with violence. Another was that it could have exposed children to violence, which it did. Bribing the children with gift cards may have been, uncool, and possible long-term effects of aggression levels could possibly be seen.
So this study could be extremely helpful in understanding what causes violent behavior and tendencies in young children, as well as what may influence them. It also helps figure out whether video games are actually helpful in bringing more violent behaviors, well, not helpful, but more bringing violent behaviors to children. It could also lead to more regulated scale and sales for video games that are rated M. And it also goes parallel and correlates with the Bandura social learning theory.
Relationships with the developmental approach. The main debate that comes up with Bandura's study is nature versus nurture. In Bandura's study, it was shown that through the children's natural ability to imitate the models, thus supporting the nature part of the nature-nurture debate. It could add support and expand upon Bandura's social learning theory.
Relation to the psych issue is evidence towards the cycle of violence. This basically means that it is going to help show how the cycle of violence can start, and even if it just even begins through video games, it may be able to expand beyond that into things like school shootings or whatever. And as you can see, we have Homer's dad choking Homer and then Homer choking Bart.
This concludes our study for the Bandura alternative study, and yeah, I'm Bob.
Thank you for
Rachel.
watching.
I'm
This is
Bob,
Stock.
that's Rachel, and this is Stock. Thank you for
Logan,
voting for
Stock.
us all the way up to this time.
Please vote for us.